Hozay in Hollywood, exposing creeps in town who ain't so good. Where any no-talent hack with a big bulging sack used to be an overnight star. Where a drop of your drawers to studio whores used to get you prime seating in bars. Hozay in Hollywood. They say it's your body, do what you think you should. On his bedpost you're a notch, or kick him in the crotch if they claim they can make you a star. They say I'll make you famous, just open your anus, easy as driving a car. Ho! Ho! Hozay in Hollywood. I speak the truth, it really ain't so good. Despite the Me Too movement, it still needs improvement, even though Harvey's in jail. Piece of shit producers are still abusers, chasing their own piece of tail. Hozay in Hollywood, exposing creeps who ain't so good. So keep your knees together, enjoy this weather, but don't expect any change soon. There will be lots of auditions and changing conditions, and Alec Baldwin is still a buffoon. Ho! Ho! My name is Hozay Smith, and I kick ass.
This edition of Hozay in Hollywood is brought to you by the Tourist Bureau of El Salvador. Planning that family vacation? Don't know where to go? Well, don't be an imbecile and pick way overpriced Disneyland. Mickey don't need your money anyway. This year, the Latin American paradise known as El Salvador is just waiting for you. The mosquitoes, the gang violence, and nighttime crime isn't nearly as bad as you've heard. Boil in the oppressive heat and take a tour by ox cart to a sugarcane field. Tour the factories that create the country's top 2 exports, t-shirts and toilet paper. And for the high point of your trip, don't forget to take in a visit with the country's most famous incarcerated superstar citizen, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, recently returned to his beloved homeland. Make reservations early, so long as you don't mind standing in line behind all of the Democratic members of Congress who have flocked down to show support for the celebrity gang member, human trafficker, and wife beater. Your patience will be rewarded with an autograph, and if you're lucky, he'll take a selfie with you. Impress all of your progressive friends by showing them just how socially conscious you are. This year, forget the theme parks and 5-star resorts. That's old hat. Your family deserves the very best. El Salvador and Kilmar are waiting for you. Book early. Operators are standing by. Well, here we are again, ladies and gentlemen, moms and dads,
Hammerhead.
boys and girls. What?
There's a guy in the kitchen,
Yeah, I know. Just don't worry about it. I know who that is. Hello, moms and dads, boys and girls, and then you come in.
Hammerhead, he's making himself a sandwich.
Yeah. That's okay. Everything is okay. Do your part, all right?
All right, I'm here.
All right. Moms and dads, boys and girls,
And non-binaries of all ages.
that's it. Welcome to yet another edition of Hozay in Hollywood, where Hozay dishes the dirt.
Yes, I dish.
You scoop the poop.
I am. I'm a poop scooper. And man, do I have a big one for us today.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Last week it was Tom Cruise.
Yeah. This is bigger. This is tremendous. This is bigger than big, bigger than life.
Okay. Okay. All right. What is it?
Where's the music?
All right. You ready?
Yeah, Hammerhead, I'm ready. I have got so much dirt. I'm gonna start slinging dirt and mud like you had no idea. No idea. Oh, yeah, I got a good one.
All right.
Let's roll the music.
Yeah, getting to it. Okay.
Okay, Hammerhead, introduce me.
Yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, time now for another edition of Hozay in Hollywood. Here he is now, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Hammerhead. Well, my staff reports, and numerous witnesses have seen, that Emmy Award-winning actor, comedian, former co-star of Seinfeld, Broadway leading man, host of numerous game shows.
Yeah. Who are you talking about?
John O'Hurley
Okay.
was spotted sitting cross-legged on the floor of a Los Angeles grocery store, eating out of a can of dog food.
You find this hard to believe.
No, this is absolutely true. I have it on good authority from numerous people that have told me that's where he was spotted. And he apparently was, when people approached him, he would bark.
Bark?
Bark.
Mm-hmm. You sure about this?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going with it. And I'm going public with it so that the entire universe knows that he was found sitting on the floor eating dog food out of a can.
Uh-huh. All right, well, if you're going to stick with that, then that's fine. The guy in the kitchen making himself a sandwich,
Yeah?
say hello to John O'Hurley.
What the hell is going on here, Jack?
Oh, my God.
You invited me here to be on your show, and here I am being introduced on the back end of an insult like that? Cross-legged in a grocery store eating dog food with what? What was I using?
I was told it was a fork.
A fork.
A fork.
Well, let me tell you something, young DJ.
Yes.
I have never eaten dog food with a fork.
Never a fork.
I have only used a spoon.
I'm sorry, Joe. I don't.
John, not Joe.
Yeah.
Well, this is going wonderfully right away. Right off the top. Jack, nice to see you. And by the way, my legs were crossed in a Windsor knot.
You see what you've done?
Well, I didn't know. So you're telling me that my sources were incorrect?
I'm telling you that this is an introduction right out of Dale Carnegie's How to Influence Friends and Win People. Or maybe it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It doesn't really matter because you've messed it up.
Well, now that you and we saw you were making yourself a sandwich.
Don't leave him alone. He's more than welcome to. I've known John. Today's what? I've known John about 45 years.
Oh, well, thanks a lot for sharing that with me, Hammerhead. I had no idea.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to have you here, John. Thank you for swinging and clarifying, because this is obviously not correct.
Well, it just, coming at you expect an introduction, and that was rather meager. Let me give you an idea of what, if you don't mind, I'd like to start by reintroducing myself.
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is the man who killed Seinfeld. In a career that began some 40 years ago with a badly lip-synced version of The Yellow Rose of Texas for a K-Tel record commercial of Mitch Miller's greatest hits. Since then, he's managed to kill 3 series of his own, 4 soap operas. He's guest starred on more than 50 television shows. Not one is still on the air. And during sweeps, the golden week of television ratings, he managed to take not 1, not 2, but 3 shows off the air in 1 week. Ellen, Seinfeld, and Damon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Grim Reaper of television, John O'Hurley.
I think that pretty much said everything I needed to know.
That's an introduction.
That's quite a resume, and you don't do that on your own. That's
No, you needed help. You really needed help. All of Hollywood had to pitch in, joined at the wrists and ankles, and drive my career into the oblivion.
Dear God. Well, Seinfeld.
I have screwed my way to the middle, Jack.
I don't know what to say. I didn't realize that I was in the presence of greatness.
Well, now you know.
Yeah. John, can I get you anything out of the kitchen?
No, thanks. I got everything I needed.
Yeah.
This sandwich, and I'm looking, Jack, at the expiration date on this processed meat, and it's you lost by an entire calendar year.
We're a low budget operation, unfortunately.
You've spared no expense, and I mean literally no no expense.
Yeah, no, that's we do the best with what we can and with what we have.
Yeah, we don't have much.
No, we no, we certainly don't. The Seinfeld thing is that's one of those shows that just keeps on giving. Of all the work that you've done, that 20 episodes. Do I have that right?
Yeah, maybe a few more. They cut a couple of episodes out of the syndication, and I can't think of which were the. I know the Puerto Rican Day one was cut out, and then there was some other stuff too. Just the syndication people didn't like that.
Right, the Puerto Rican Day was the episode where they got caught in traffic. Okay.
But anyway, it's been a wonderful gift, and there's not a moment in my life that I don't sit back and pinch myself and say, "Wow, you were on the number one show."
And it seems that it's running in perpetuity. I mean, I don't think it's ever
and it keeps perpetuing. To use the verb, now that it's over on Netflix now. They bought the entire series, and so it's developed a brand new audience from 14 to 20 again.
Mm-hmm.
And they all think they're seeing it for the first time.
And that's what's so amazing about that. The fact that I remember when the Honeymooners or I Love Lucy, which obviously Lucy you can still find, but nowhere near the comparison of a Seinfeld. And I think more than anything else, it was the consistency of the show. And what do you attribute that to? The fact that
as Shakespeare always said, the play is the thing. He never said the actor was the thing or the producer, and it's the play. It's the words. Everything is in the words. And if you're careful and put the words out where they belong and in the order that they belong, you got a hit. Mm-hmm. And that's what we had. We had a hit because the writing was that good. Now, we had characters that, hit it out of the ballpark every time they open their mouth, but it begins with the spoken word.
Sure. There's an episode where I believe they have the shower heads have been changed in their apartments.
The low-flow shower heads.
The low-flow shower heads.
You don't want those high-flow because, they're wasting water.
Yeah, and Kramer is in Elaine's office, and you're walking by and you think that there's a drug deal going on.
Mm-hmm. He had the good stuff. That's what I heard. That's all I heard out of the office. Hey, he's got the good stuff. Well, he was talking about the shower heads that they were selling out of the back of Black Market. They were going back to the high-flow shower heads. In fact, upgrading into the Russian version that was had enough water pressure to knock the chrome off a bumper.
Right, and
which takes me back to junior prom for some reason. I don't know why. Never mind. And no, don't go there.
Yeah, no. There's a wonderful, quick comedic move where you slam the door and he hits and the door goes again, and the timing is perfect.
And he hits and he gets knocked down like a bowling pin.
Yeah. And then at that point, you get on one knee and you're begging Elaine. You're saying, "It happened to me. It was 1979, and I forget what woman I was with at the time, but when you said that, I turned to her and I said, no, in 1979, he and I were living together in the same house in Connecticut."
That's right, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. I was searching for an elusive swatch of corduroy.
Yeah. And what's amazing is you also seem to remember a lot of the dialogue, some of the stuff that didn't even make it through.
Well, the monologues were just hysterical. And the good thing about them is that they gave the writers a chance to write in long form rather than single-line dialogue. And that's what they loved. They loved writing for Peterman because he would use his words to take a right-hand turn and he would never come back.
And initially, they hadn't planned on the character being there long term, correct? I mean, this was that
was the way Seinfeld operated. They basically never even asked permission to use the character. They just do it and apologize later. And much easier, as we all know the formula. And so that's what they did with this. And so she met Peterman in the rain. Elaine met Peterman in the rain one night after being insulted by the Korean nail ladies. Mm-hmm. And she says, and they bump into each other in the pouring rain. And she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going." And I respond with, I think, one of the great philosophical lines ever written. And I say, That's the best way to get to someplace you've never been. But isn't that beautiful? I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going. Well, that's the best way to get to someplace you've never been.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you reminisced about the Capto Oxfords.
Yes, Italian
Capto
more than
anything
sophisticated yet different.
And that first episode in the rain, it was my son and I, and my favorite show. We hadn't spoken in a couple of years, and we were watching the show. And as soon as you came on, because Jared had met you, we both said like this exact same time. We went, "Oh, Harley!" And we were like shocked. It was like, "Yeah, that's him." And we kind of we looked at each other and we said, "Well, I didn't know. I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years. I know that he's working, and nice to see him, on a hit show." So yeah.
Well, nice to know that I could have helped bond your family again.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so life has been good, but the blessing of the fact that you can do so many different things has helped. The fact that how many cartoon voiceovers have you done?
Oh gosh, I don't even. I mean, I do so many now. I had about 50. One time, I had 15 cartoons running. But right now, it's the big ones are SpongeBob. I've played King Neptune on SpongeBob for maybe 12 years now. It's been a long time, maybe longer. And then one that they have resurrected again because it's Disney's #1 show or ABC's #1 show, Phineas and Ferb. I play the Mayor, Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Number one show.
That's the #1 show on a morning show on ABC right now. It's Disney's actually. Mm-hmm. So in fact, they just revamped the show and they've gone with a brand new season. And I was just over the weekend at the premiere for the new episodes.
The man knows.
Oh yeah, without question. Yeah, and I've never heard Jose be quite so laid back.
I'm in the presence of greatness, Hammerhead.
You're in the presence of an over-processed.
I'm used to dealing with you.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Game shows. You've hosted 2 national shows. To Tell the Truth.
Started with To Tell the Truth. Yeah. That was that was using the well-known phrase. Will the real so-and-so please stand up?
Yeah, what was that like? Because you hadn't done a game show before, but obviously...
Well, I hadn't, but I had done a celebrity episode of Family Feud back when I was in my daytime era, Mr. Soap Opera, and they had, guys against the girls, soap stars, and so I did a week of Family Feud, and I remember not really caring much about the game, but I was watching Richard Dawson. And I said to myself, "This is a pretty good gig he's got here," and I only surmised that he was making more money than God, and which was true, and so I said to myself, "This is a really great gig. I should really open up and consider this," because I had been approached years before with the same question, "Are you interested in doing game shows?" And my agent at the time said, "If you do that, kiss your acting career goodbye." He said, "Because nobody's going to, you're not going to go to watch Othello in Central Park, starring the celebrated game show host John O'Hurley. It's just not going to happen." Uh-huh. So, there was such a prejudice, within the segments of the industry toward other segments. If you were on, soap operas, you couldn't be a nighttime player. If you were in movies of the week, well, you couldn't do real movies. Mm-hmm. There was always that bias that was in there, so everybody was, shopping their own genre of entertainment. And now all of that stuff is gone. So getting back to your original question, you've been able to do so many things. I'm really lucky to have a lot of arrows in my quiver. Because when the opportunity happens, I can take one out, throw it across the bow, and see if it sticks.
Sure,
and
sure.
It's been just I've been blessed with so many different opportunities.
And there are so many people in Hollywood and in town that can do one thing really well, but that's it. They're kind of pigeonholed into one thing where their strength is, and that's where they have to count on as far as finding work and continuing a career. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
Yeah.
The more things you're able to do, the more you will do. It's everything works off your imagination, and once you imagine it, you must do it.
Sure. Now, without digging up too much dirt, and strictly at your comfort level, back when you're doing To Tell the Truth, Paula Poundstone was one of the the judges.
She was one of the
panelists.
She and Meshack Taylor were my two permanent parts of the celebrity panel, and then I would have kind of a good improv comedian actor on the third slot, and then the bimbo was in the fourth seat, the beautiful bimbo.
Yeah, of course.
And that's the way the show kind of set up every week.
When Paula used to play the Treehouse Comedy Club in Connecticut, she would come in and do my radio show, and I always found her delightful. I found her
wonderful
music very
one of my
funny.
favorite people.
There was some level of controversy afterwards, and somehow we've not heard from Paula in quite a while. Do you recall what that was?
She's still working around. I mean, she's still. She had kind of an unfortunate DUI. She was in that period when the DUIs were kind of running rampant in Hollywood there, and got kind of caught up in that. And I think that kind of put her on the shelf for a while. Sure. And but I know she's back around. I've seen her name on the comedy listings.
Nice, because
what a genuinely, one of the smartest women. Process information and turn it into comedy immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and one of the early shticks that she used to do that I remember clearly and still makes me laugh about not being able to afford to get her pants out of the dry cleaners, and she'd say, "Well, can I just see the pants?" That was the way. So a couple of years go by, and suddenly you find yourself hosting Family Feud.
Yes, I had gone through an interesting period that was kind of focused around an interesting reality show called Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, yeah,
and that was in 2005 that I did that, and. It was one thing led to another, and that from Dancing with the Stars, it led me to Chicago on Broadway, and then out of nowhere, I get a call from the producers of Family Feud and said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Well, you've already got a host." They said, "Well, we're at contract termination time, so." It was
Louis Anderson. The show just wasn't working with Louis.
I think it was Richard Karn.
I
think it was even one more.
Okay. But I remember Louis did it for a year. The show just didn't work with him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was. Yeah, Louis, God bless him. He was such a great guy, and everybody loved him. But he was, physically. It was a physically demanding.
Sure.
And it was difficult for him at the weight that he always carried. And but he was wonderful. He was wonderful. I loved Louis. Just as a great comedian, as a human being, good guy. But I took over for that, and that was really interesting. I had 5 years there, and it was it was like hosting a cocktail party. Which I did. Growing up in West Hartford, Connecticut, my dad was a surgeon, and he had all sorts of highly placed, powerful friends that would come over for dinner parties at the house and cocktails and. And sure enough, the door would open, and I would be there, and I would take the jackets and put them in the coat closet, and I would go and help mix drinks and deliver those around. So I knew what hosting was, and that's really what Family Feud was like. I was there just pushing the show along, and if I had a funny comment that happened, during my processing of information, I'd toss it out there. But my job was basically to move the show along as quickly as you could.
And that was a period in your life that you were hosting, and they did the show around your schedule, because I believe at the same time you were on stage at Las Vegas.
I had my show Spamalot, the Broadway musical Spamalot. I was playing King Arthur in that, and we had Steve Wynn bought the show and put it into the Wynn there at Vegas, and it was an enormous success. It was the number one show in Vegas for 2 years running, and but it came at a cost. I was still doing Family Feud, which meant I had 14 weekends a year that I had to do 12 episodes on a weekend. So this would be my schedule. On Friday night, I would go down to this theater at the Wynn in Vegas. I would do the show, And at 10 o'clock at night, I would run and to the airport, hop in a small plane, and fly back to Van Nuys in California, drive to the apartment, or drive to my home in Beverly Hills, and then sleep, and then get up the following morning. And at 9 o'clock, I was taping episodes of Family Feud. I would do 6 episodes of that. I would run to the airport, hop back in the plane, and I would do 2 shows of Spamalot that night, back to back, a 7 o'clock and a 10 o'clock. At midnight, I would run to the airport, fly back to L.A. I would do another 12 episodes on Sunday, or another 6 episodes on Sunday, excuse me. And then I had to do a show, and then another show on Sunday night. So on Sunday night out in Vegas. And then finally another show on Monday night. They didn't have Dark Mondays, and so it became, I didn't have voice. I was just physically exhausted. And that was 14 weekends in a row.
And the one consolation was that you were much younger then. Yeah, and able to do. Yes, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It was the toughest schedule I ever had. It was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, but still trying to stay funny. and then move obviously Spamalot along, because that was a tough show. I mean, I was wearing 40 pounds of chainmail
and King Arthur stuff,
and doing line dances on stage there with in the Monty Python spirit.
Obviously, it was good to be the king.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
it was wonderful. I was the best 2 years I've ever had in my career, I think. I had more fun living in Vegas and doing Spamalot, and the vibe in Vegas is just so wonderful. I lived there at the Wynn, and also had a house up in the hills in Red Rock, so I could do whatever I wanted to, and it was just a wonderful time.
And it was a hoot, because while we were waiting to see the show, my wife at the time and I were outside, and there was this huge animated marquee, I guess is what
out on Las Vegas Boulevard there.
And it was like, and there you were, and it was like wow.
In my chainmail.
Wow, really is good to be the king. Do you have a question you want to?
No, I'm content to sit back and listen, because I am, as you may have known, John. I was the surprise party candidate for president of these United States. Yes.
It was not successful.
No, but I have announced.
He has announced just the other day that he is that here in the state of California he's running for governor.
Governor.
Yeah, governor, because he says in the senatorial election you run for Senate, congressional election you run for Congress, gubernatorial election you run for.
You run for governor.
Governor, yeah.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course. What else do they call it?
Yeah, governor.
Yeah, and can't be any worse than the governor that we've got now. So.
Oh, well, it could, but
depends.
But he'll fight you off on that.
Yeah, it depends on how far you go. I know that you've had some contact and maybe played a couple of rounds of golf with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. I did, actually. I introduced him to Marla Maples.
Oh, dear. Has he forgiven you for that?
Oh, no. Donald is a wonderful guy. There's no one who has ever met Donald that doesn't walk away with to say that's one of the most charming men I've ever met.
I think Bill Maher is still in a state of shock.
Yeah, he's lost everything. Bill has lost his all of his principles of polarization due to his all it took was one dinner with Trump.
Yeah.
No, he's an awfully nice guy. I really enjoy him. But you know what I like about him? He gets things done. And that's the thing I admire about him. I always say, I have never stayed in a Hillary. I've never stayed in an Obama. I've never stayed in a Bush. I've never stayed in a Biden. But I've stayed in a Trump. Mm-hmm. And wherever Trump puts a stand up, it's always the best place. No matter where he puts it up, it's always the best lemonade stand. And I admire him for that.
No second-rate stuff.
Nope, he isn't. No. You look at, if he wanted a beach house, guess what he bought? Meriwether Post.
Yeah, Mar-a-Lago, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Golf game. He's big on golf. And
huge.
How often do you get? Because I know with you, it's feast or famine.
I golf right now is a luxury for me. I'm really so busy that which is good. It's nice at the tender old age of 94 that wherever I am.
Yeah.
It's nice to still have some relevancy in this business, and that's that's the thing that you hold on to for as long as you can, and then quietly they'll say you're no longer relevant. So we're
without question.
But that hasn't come yet, fortunately.
So now that you found yourself that you were totally incorrect about John O'Hurley and about the nonsense about him eating dog food,
Yes.
how do you feel?
How do I feel? Well, what are my options?
There are no options. How do you feel?
I feel a little silly, but I'm ready. I'm ready for more. Hozay in Hollywood. I'm required to dish the dirt, scoop the poop, and whatever I do with the mud.
Well, you want to fling the mud.
Yes.
Okay. All right. If you'd like to drop us a note, we of course would love to hear from you. And here's our address. It's Chris and Hozay. Hozay part is HOZAY @gmail.com. And Hozay's autobiography is available online for sale.
Yes, at popular prices.
Corruptus Politicus is the name of his autobiography.
Yes, it's a fascinating story, and some of it is actually true.
A shallow man's guide to wealth, cheap celebrity, and self-importance in a politically correct world. It's available online at lulu.com. You could also download it at amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, and a host of other .com.
Yes.
John was kind enough to pop in and make it work. Part 2 next week here on Hozay in Hollywood.
Yeah, where I'll be scooping... forget it.
Yeah, forget it.